Hey there, this is Jason. It's officially May 1st, 2023, and I wanted to take a moment to share with you what is ripening up in the month of May. So before I jump into the fruit that I'm expected to harvest within the next 30 days, I wanted to point out some interesting trends that I'm noticing in my orchard. So I collect a lot of data every year about which trees are flowering and when their fruit is ripening so that I can compare it from year to year. So for example, I'm next to my pomegranate tree right now, and you can see that the flowers have all taken shape, but they haven't opened yet. And so that's pretty interesting because I have data from last year, photographs and notes that I took, that showed that the flowers were all open by April 20th of 2022. And yeah, sure, there's a couple flowers that are open here, but the majority of them are closed. So that's pretty interesting. And that tells me that the environmental factors this year, the colder winter that we had, the rainier winter that we had an impact on our flowering time and ultimately on our ripening time. So I suspect that the following varieties will ripen up in May, but there's one at the very end, and I'll point that one out. It's one of my Apriums that might actually ripen up in the beginning of June, but I'll include it in this video anyway. There are a few that I know for sure will ripen in May because they were early ripeners last year, meaning the first half of May, and even if they had another 10 days that they needed to sit on the tree, they would still produce fruit for me this month. So let's go ahead, let's swing the camera around, let's go ahead and check out what's coming up in the month of May. All right, quick shout out to my cherry trees that have not kept their fruit on the tree. I did get flowers, the fruit did set, but they yellowed and fell off pretty easily. So I got Mini Royal, Royal Lee, and Royal Crimson. Fingers crossed, next year will hopefully be my year, but no cherries for me this year. So let's go ahead, let's check out some other stone fruit that will definitely produce fruit this year for me. And the very first one on my list is going to be my Gold Kist apricot. So this tree right here is fruit set several months ago, and they've been growing at a pretty rapid pace, and they're a little bit larger than ping pong ball sized right now, and I expect that to increase. Last year these fruit ripened up on May 10th, but if I add those extra 10 days that I'm factoring in due to the colder winter, that I'm probably looking at my first harvest sometime around May 15th to May 20th. But this will be the first tree. Do excuse how haphazard it looks. This apricot has been through a lot. I'm going to come in and really prune it pretty heavily and open up the tree and do a full open center here. It's sort of a modified open center. But in any case, the fruit doesn't care. The fruit will ripen up just the same. Now I'm going to come next door over here to my loaded 4-in-1 peach. I actually have 3 varieties that I expect to harvest here in May. The first one being probably my favorite. It's called Floridaprince. Here's the largest peach that I have. If I hold it in my hand, you can see what size it is already. That'll double in size if it's anything like last year. And again, this was a May 10th harvest, so I expect within the next 15 to 20 days, these guys are going to be ready to pick. Again, I can't say enough good things about Floridaprince. I was extremely pleasantly surprised by the flavor. So unbelievably juicy. I would plant this one again if I had to do it all over again. And the fruit is getting so big that I did this modified support structure here. That's just some PVC, some leftover pieces that I had laying around that were going to end up in the trash anyway. And I went ahead and just stuck that into the ground to give it a little bit of extra support because I had some dieback way back when, and this branch that grew out of the dieback did this funky sort of cantilevered like bend across the tree. Not ideal, but again, I really had no control after that dieback. I was either going to lose that variety entirely or have a funky branch that sticks out in a weird way. So that's Floridaprince. Again, super excited by that. I can't wait. If you're in the market for an early ripening peach and you're in the Southern California area and you need a low chill peach, I would put Floridaprince at the top of my list. Coming in a few days later is going to be Desert Gold. So these guys are noticeably smaller. They don't have any color on them yet, whereas Floridaprince, they're taking on some red and pink hues. These are entirely green, and the size is much smaller than the Floridaprince. So I expect these to come in at late May. That's Desert Gold. And then over here, as the name implies, there's Mid-Pride. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just passed Mid-Pride. This is May-Pride. May-Pride is down here. These peaches are approximately the same size as Desert Gold, but you'll notice that they already have this beautiful red blush to them that is also attractive. Makes them stand out a little bit more. So again, that's May-Pride, and I expect May-Pride to be my late May harvest. So we're talking the very tail end of May, maybe even a little bit of early June. So these guys, they're taking shape nicely. Looking forward to those. Now, one tree that could potentially ripen up for me on time for a May harvest is this Aprium over here, which is in the ground for the first year. So this is Flavor Delight. Let me make sure I get that right. I always mix these up. I have multiple trees that have the word delight in them. Yeah, Flavor Delight Aprium. So take a look at these guys. They are shaping up nicely. They are just about the same size as my apricot, but they're not expected to ripen up until the very tail end of May, possibly the beginning of June, depending on how reliable that harvest chart was that I got from Dave Wilson. Because again, they're growing up, I believe, in Modesto, which is a few zones shy of zone 10 where I am. So their harvest chart dates are a good guide, but they're not exactly in direct alignment with me here in zone 10. But in any case, these Apriums are an exciting interspecific. If you've never seen an Aprium before, it's mostly apricot with a little bit of plum. It's sort of the exact opposite of a pluot, whereas a pluot is mostly plum and a little bit of apricot. This is sort of the opposite. So these are sometimes called complex hybrids or interspecifics. This is a product, and it's actually a trademarked product of Floyd Zager and Zager Genetics. What they did was, instead of just crossing a plum and an apricot 1 for 1, 50% on one, 50% on the other, they went ahead, they crossed it, they got a 50-50 cross, and then they went ahead and crossed that with a straight up apricot. So you have approximately a 75 apricot, 25 plum mix in these Apriums, so that's pretty exciting. And hopefully we get the best of both worlds here in this Flavor Delight Aprium. This will be the first year that I'm tasting this. I'm not sure what to expect, but it's going to be really awesome to have my apricot, my traditional Gold Kist, and this Aprium that are going to be ripening almost side by side, so I can do a taste test. So that's exciting. So that's my update. That's the orchard. That's what's coming up in May. And I can't wait to taste test and get started here, because once these trees ripen up, everything else is going to follow suit, and I'm going to have fruit hopefully all the way through October if my successive ripening plan is going to work this year, which I sure hope it does. So when those fruit are ready to pick, I'll shoot another video. I'll let you know what I think, especially with this new guy, this Aprium over here. I'm excited to share what that one tastes like. Happy growing. Good luck.